Um, okay. Hi, everyone. So, welcome once again to our third episode. Okay, so today in the studio we have David with us. So, very quickly, David will just tell us about himself and uh, what he does before we dive right into further discussions. But also quickly, if you are not already subscribed to our channel, you can do that. Check our previous videos. You can like them. You can like this one and subscribe as well to our channel, so you get notified whenever we're going live, whenever we have new uploads online. All right. So David, over to you. So you can shoot.
Okay. Good day, everyone. Hope you are doing well. My name is Elogene David Okwe. You can call me Elo or you can call me David. I'm a
Yeah, David.
compliance
If you're speaking,
specialist.
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? You can't hear me, can you? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I lost you for a
Hello, can
bit.
you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello, is this better?
Yeah. Go ahead, David. Okay, yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hello, is this any better?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that. Network is maybe rain fell a little bit here, so network is a bit bad. But you can hear me now, right?
Yes, very much. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Okay. So yes, my name is Elogene David Ohwe. You can call me Elo or you can call me David. I'm basically a financial crimes compliance specialist with about 5 years of experience in financial crime prevention, transaction monitoring, KYC and onboarding, sanctions and PEP screening, and basically compliance as a whole in the banking and the fintech sector in Nigeria, across Africa, and in the UK. So currently, I'm a compliance specialist at AfriChange, which is basically like a money remittance company. That's what I currently do. Uh, yeah, so that's just basically an introduction about me.
Okay. Thank you, David. That's nice. So very quickly, can you walk us through how you got into this compliance space?
Okay, how I
From
work
your
into
background,
compliance.
what you were doing prior, your educational background, what you studied, and how you came into the financial crime space. Yeah.
Funny thing, I always say it is God that literally led me on my path here because it has always been a very funny story. I studied accounting in university and I attended the University of Benin. Even to study the accounting, God somehow led me because I remember in secondary school, you know that period where you're about to choose your which whether you want to go to science class or social science class and everything. I remember during that period, I was not even sure where I wanted to go. And funny thing was, there was somebody who. Funny thing was like there was a girl in my class then that I liked. And I was like, oh, this girl is a fine girl. And I was sitting down one day and I heard her talking to her friend saying she was going to like the social science class to study accounting and everything. And I said, let me also go there and I ended up and I joined the social science class. Then went into accounting, which I really loved. In my 300 level, I did an internship in KPMG, an audit internship, where I worked in their audit department, and I really enjoyed it. By the end of the internship, I realized that I didn't necessarily want to do that for like ever. I wanted something a little bit different. So in my final year, I started doing a lot of research on where do I want to be, where do I want to go, which parts of business and finance do I want to really be. And I stumbled on risk management and a little bit of compliance, but it was mainly risk management. So after I graduated, I did some courses in risk management just to get myself a bit of knowledgeable about it. And then my first job, which was NYSC, I was to a financial institution, luckily for me. And then while I was posted there, I was asked, what do I want to, like, which department do you think I should fit in very well? And I decided I would like to be in their risk department. And so they put me in their risk department, and their risk department was actually merged with their compliance department. So I got a little bit of risk experience, a little bit of compliance experience, and that's where I started liking compliance from there. Then during NYC, I was just like, already preparing for outside NYC. I started preparing like 6 months before I finished NYC, applying for jobs and everything. And then I finally got a job with GT just as I was finishing NYC. I went to their training school. And so from there, I was already saying, okay, risk and compliance is what I like. That's what I want to do. And luckily, I got put in the holding company's risk and compliance department because that was put together for the holding company GTCO. And literally, the holding company just started then, so it was also a very good experience. And I got to actually do compliance very well. That was like my first real big picture of compliance, and that's kind of what led me into compliance. From there on, I realized how much I liked it. I realized how much I liked specifically the financial crime part of it. So from there, I started to build like a career in compliance.
Okay, that's really awesome. That's really awesome. So I checked your, looking at your profile on LinkedIn, you get to see some really major certifications. So just walk us through your certification journey, like which you started with, then you moved on, and your reasons for getting those particular certifications.
Okay. First thing I would say is having people ahead of you is always very important. So while I was in GT, the person I was working with in compliance, his name was Toyo. He, I'm very grateful for him. He really is one that advised me a lot. So I was wondering, okay, I want to gain more experience. I want to gain more knowledge because the truth is, certifications are not just titles. They're not just things to add to your name. The idea of getting certification is basically to add skills, add knowledge. They are like tools rather than just titles. They open doors for you. Like when you have a certification, you may be able to apply for a job or get a job. But even when you do all that, you should have to be able to prove it. So you shouldn't just be looking for certification for just for certification's sake. So you can say, oh, I have all these many things. I spoke to him, Toyo, and I was like, okay, what do we advise me to do? You have been in compliance for years. And he mentioned different certifications. He was just mentioning all of them. And when he was mentioning the price of them, I was just putting hand on my head because all the prices were like big. So finally, he talked about DCP, which is the Compliance
Yeah,
Institute of
yeah. No,
Nigeria.
I understand. I know how it is.
Yeah. So, and then finally, he talked about the DCP, which is like the one owned by the Compliance Institute of Nigeria. And was like, okay, if you don't really have much money, you can start with this. And if you start with this, it can also help you leverage on this to get other ones. So I was like, okay, no problem. And I started preparing for it and I registered for the DCP. At this point, I left GT and now moved to Sterling. I had people there who also advised me when I needed like materials. They connected me, Aditola, who worked with me in Sterling, and even my boss then wrote to me, Owasha. He literally trained me so much in financial crime and transaction monitoring so deep that most of the things I know I attribute to him. And after all these things, I registered for the DCP with one of my colleagues, Jane Sterling, Victoria, and we just started preparing together. And somehow, the exam came, we wrote it, I passed, I was very happy. And that was like the first ever certification I did. It was the DCP, Member of Compliance Institute of Nigeria. After that, I decided to also go because I realized I like basically transaction monitoring and financial crime very well. So I tried to maybe take the CFA examination to get more knowledge about fraud prevention and all that. So registered for that one too. And like I said, people were really just there for me, provided me with materials. For the CFA, I had to get some like references. Some of those people, Aditola was one of my references, Toya was one of my references. They helped me prepare very well. And I wrote the CFA. The CFA exam, still the money, yes, is in dollars, but it was not that expensive at that time. Dollar had not yet risen the way it rose. And then I wrote the CFA exam. It had like 5 papers in it, and you have to write all the papers within a period. So after I registered, prepared very well with their materials and everything, and then wrote the exam. God helped me again. I passed. Now the last one I recently wrote was my ACAMS. Now that exam terrified me. Let me not lie. I used to think I was smart until I get ready for ACAMS. The exam terrified me. First of all, luckily for me, to reduce costs, the Compliance Institute of Nigeria actually offers a discount for their members who are active members and pay your dues and everything. So they helped me reduce the cost a little bit. So I'm grateful for them so that the money was not choking. It even took me, even after they reduced cost, it took me a while to save up for the money, saved, got the materials, registered, took their practice. One thing I've learned is the way almost of all these exams have like practice courses, and those things are very useful. You shouldn't just say I'll read on my own. When you like register and pay for these practice courses or get these materials, use them. They actually help a lot. Take the practice questions there, they actually help a lot. And this ACAMS, I prepared though, but I was scared. And you know those exams where you just submit, your results just come out immediately. It was one of those exams, and I
Immediately,
pressed submit,
yeah.
and my chest was just beating back, 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 back. Luckily for me, I also passed the exams. Uh, I also like each of these certifications are wonderful, and they each help me in different parts. Like we have the CIN, Compliance of Nigeria DCP. Number one, it basically provides you a better knowledge of Nigerian compliance environment and gets you involved in the body, in Nigerian compliance body. And they also can set you up for these other examinations and other places that you have to take. They can advise you on trainings, advise you on things to do. And they also have this bi-weekly meetings
Yeah,
they have every
webinar.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, webinar. They have on Wednesday, which is very useful. You get knowledgeable about things that are going on in Nigeria compliance environment. The CFE focuses on fraud. So if you want to do transaction monitoring, financial crime prevention, that is your journey into that. You get to do a lot, and you just get to have like a better knowledge about all these things. Teaches you about investigation, teaches you a lot about all that. Then we have the account, which is basically about compliance and money laundering. And that one just gives you more of an international experience and knowledge of the international environment, different countries, compliance regulations, how it works. And so each of them is useful in their own rights, and they all have many benefits. So these are the ones I've done so far. There are so many ones I want to do later, but money is there, time is there, but we'll figure it out as we go on. Like there's the CFCS and there's the chain analysis reactor certification, which I actually would love to do, but
Okay.
we'll find.
CROC for crypto.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's safe to say you are considering transition into the crypto space now. Your
I feel
financial
like
crime.
yes, I feel like I want to have enough knowledge in that because I see a lot of future prospects in it. The crypto space is fast developing, and I feel like to an extent, banks will soon start putting their foot into it. Financial institutions have started putting their foot into it. CBN has even given their new regulation, which basically starts the crypto acceleration program, right? Digital asset acceleration, licensing, and everything. So all those things show that the world is actually adapting to it. So I feel like being at that forefront of the compliance space as the world adapts to it is very important. It may not mean that I'll transition fully or that it's transition fully. It just means having those knowledge and those skills make you essential and make you what people will look for.
No, I get you because yeah, definitely off-ramp transactions definitely involve traditional financial institutions. So
Yes,
they can't run away from this. They need to know how that space works. I get preparing yourself for
exactly.
it. Uh,
Exactly.
so also, can you just walk us through a typical work day for you? So when you go to the office as a financial crime specialist, what do you do at the office?
Well, no day is the same. Like every day has its own unique perspectives, every day has its own unique issues, but every day also is beautiful in its own way. Uh So a day can start typically with transaction monitoring because where I work in a fintech organization, and usually most fintech organizations are not as specialized as banks, where they have you are in banks, you can have you are doing transaction monitoring, you are doing KYC, this other person is doing regulatory reporting, this other person is doing that. But in fintech, you have to get your hands into all the pies, you have to get you good in every single thing. So a typical day could just come in, start with transaction monitoring, review all the transactions that are pending. And because my company works in the remittance space, you have transactions which are basically going on 24/7 live. And so you have to review them to ensure that things are going on well, check out for the red flags in them, see that everything is going on. Sometimes maybe hold transactions or hold funds to investigate. Other times, let it go, ask questions. Sometimes you have to file regulatory reports and other things. Then you look at your KYCs. Why are some accounts being flagged for KYC issues? Is there anything then you look at for things like PEPs and sanction screenings, see, oh, this person, was he actually a politically exposed person? Was this person actually sanctioned? Look at all those. Then regulatory reports like end of months, beginning of months. You have to file so many reports to the regulators, gather all your reports. Then at other times, you have trainings, yearly trainings, quarterly trainings, like quarterly newsletters. So you have to work on all these things. And in doing that, you also have to be aware of what is going on in your industry. So every day, what is the new thing in this industry, what is the new thing in Nigeria. The CBN wake up and say something, the FCA wake up and say something, all the other regulators that regulate you wake up and say something within the night. So you have to just get yourself abreast about all these things. Then so many other things can come up, like policy updates, some serious investigation. Like, yes, you do transaction monitoring, but sometimes when you have like fraud cases that you have to do some in-depth investigation, which is always very interesting. So yeah, a typical day is always just, you don't know what is ahead of you. You just know that you have something unique to do.
Okay, David, just to take you back a bit. So like you mentioned, the certifications are quite expensive, despite the fact that they are investments um, in ourselves as professionals. So,
Yeah.
in based on what you already have, do you, from your experience now, do you think certifications open doors prior to when you had these certifications? And you've already been working in the space and have a couple of years of experience. If you're comparing that with having these certifications now, do you think more doors have opened to you compared to when you did not have the certifications? I know this is what our viewers, a lot of people will be considering, because you invest what $550 or 600 dollars in $550 for CFE, or 1,000 what 600 and something if you go through CIN for camps. It's quite a large sum even. So, but do you think so far the traction you're getting from recruiters, from what can you say about this?
Okay, what will I say? I feel yes, to an extent, certificates provide more opportunities. The way I always put it is certificate open doors for you, but your experience and your skill keeps you there, but or lets you enter the door basically. Certificates, sometimes you see some applications where they want somebody with CAMS or they want somebody with CFE, or they usually say CFE is an added advantage, CAMS is an added advantage. So your certification sometimes opens those doors for you, especially when you are looking at international experience. Um, a lot of times, for the more Nigerian space, it's easier for you to say, okay, even without your certification, as long as you have the knowledge, you can open doors. But when you're going to compete internationally, look for international organizations to work for, it's easier with certifications for you to get all these. Without those certifications, sometimes some organizations may not actually notice you or pay that attention to you. But with the international experience, those could open doors for you. But like I said, certifications, while certifications open doors for you, it's your experience and your skill that will keep you there. It's your experience and your skill that will let you enter. If you don't have any experience, you don't have any skill, you probably will just be when you get the offer or when you come to the interview, you may disgrace yourself. Imagine after forming, I have a camp, you're raising shoulder. I have CFE, you're raising shoulder. Now come there, they now start asking you questions about international regulations, asking questions about regulators in the UK, asking you about regulators in the US, or something about how the data protection works. What about GDPR? What do you know about that? And you're like, I don't know anything about that. Or Mika, what do you know about that? You're like, I've never heard of it in my life. That shows that your certification is just certification in name. You don't have the knowledge or the experience that comes with it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Before we move on, one more thing. So, you were when you were talking about your daily job routine, about how people within the fintech space are more like generalists and not necessarily specialists like you find in traditional FIs. So I know recently even I saw a post by Abibat Sanusi. Olagoke also commented on that. They were just talking about the fact that about the switch between from fintechs back to traditional FIs, or from FIs back to fintechs, and this whole idea of generalist and specialist and all that. As you just mentioned, the fact that uh, you guys do a lot. You're not specialized in, say, if you're doing transaction money, you might also be doing onboarding. You might as well be doing AML training across the business as well. So I get that angle of things. So we'll just dive into a couple of the things we'll be discussing today. So the first on it would be just for you to walk us through AML, CFT, CPF typologies. So we could begin by expanding on those terms and what are the typologies we find within the financial crime space as it relates to these terminologies.
Okay, no problem. First of all, one thing I want to say is like, as compliance people, we use a lot of acronyms. I don't know if you realize, you don't be like AML,
Yeah,
CFT, SARO, PEP. Everybody's looking at you like, what are you talking about?
KYC.
So it's not our fault. Like I talk to my friends and I'll just be saying PEP, he's saying AML. They are looking at me like, what are you talking about? I don't know. So it's just something that happens with when you're inside a particular field. You get to realize that you use a lot of acronyms, you use a lot of typologies that nobody understands unless they're there. So when we say AML or we say ML, ML means money laundering, TF means terrorism financing, and PF means proliferation financing. So AML means anti-money laundering. So the idea is that we're supposed to prevent money laundering. Then CFT, countering the financing of terrorism. So we're supposed to stop people from financing terrorism activities. And then proliferation financing. Let me calm down and say it. Proliferation financing is basically
So you need to
finance.
calm down to say it.
It is basically financing weapons of mass destruction. So that is the idea of it. Those are like the major things in compliance. When you talk about financial compliance, we're trying to prevent all this. But we also look at financial crime in general. And financial crime includes things like fraud, identity theft. Basically, when you are basically doing anything that is a crime that gives you financial incentives, all those things. And when you usually steal money or you do bribery or you do any crime, you usually want to move the money secretly because you don't want people to know that you stole money. Yeah. So in those cases, that is like money laundering, trying to pass this your illegal money that you got from your criminal activity through the financial system so it looks like clean money. You are literally trying to wash the money. That's why it's called money laundering. So it's dirty before now we wash it. It's very clean. And the idea of compliance and financial compliance is to prevent money laundering, prevent terrorism financing, prevent proliferation financing, prevent financial crime in general, prevent you from passing stolen money around. So basically in compliance, you hear things like KYC. What is KYC? Know your customer. The idea is this: if somebody wants to walk into your house, you will not just let anybody randomly enter your house and sit in your house, right? You want to know, who is this person? What are you doing here? What do you want to do? Where do you come from? What it's like? You want to know more details about the person. That is the idea of KYC, know your customer, or KYB, know your customer's business. You're supposed to basically know those who you deal with. Know where are they from, what kind of business do they do, are they criminals, are they good people, where is their money coming from, are they bringing stolen money into your institution, are they bringing good money into your institution. All those things are very important, and that is the idea of AML, CFT, and basically compliance and KYC. There you hear things like PEPs. PEPs is politically exposed people, people who basically have high political positions, and those basically, because they have these high political positions, they have access to like government funds, access to contracts, so they can easily be involved in basically taking money that is not their own. They can easily be involved in bribery, in money laundering, things like that. These are just some acronyms we use in compliance a lot. But like when we talk about the typologies, we can also look at some of the ways financial crimes are carried out, some of the ways money laundering happens. We can look at things like what we call trade-based money laundering. Usually, when this occurs during importing and exporting, somebody is importing goods. The good is worth 50 naira. Instead of writing 15 naira, he will write it as 500 naira, and then they will not send him 500 naira. So they have passed 450 extra to the like that. Or you are selling one phone. Instead of selling the one phone, you actually are selling 10 phones. So they'll pay for 10 phones. That way they have passed the money around. That's like trade-based money laundering. Another very common ways people try to do money laundering is what we call structuring. Basically, you break down the money into small bits. So you pay it here, pay it here, pay it here, then you transfer everything out. That is structuring. It's also a way of people try to do money laundering. Some people do also believe that we'll gather all the money, we're not going to withdraw it on the other side, and the person will have the money. All those kind of things. These are the kind of things we watch out for as compliance people, as financial crime prevention. Also, we also look at like things in like fraud. There are a lot of fraud, but one of the most common fraud is all this social engineering, where people convince you or deceive you that they are the ones. Like maybe they will hack your mail or they'll deceive you that you're somebody else. So that we hear stories of where somebody will hack somebody else's WhatsApp, then they'll use it to send you text message, say, I'm in trouble, send me money now. That kind of thing. If not, I'll go to jail. This kind of something very urgent came up. uh Those are kinds of like social engineering and identity thefts, basically to just deceive people to send money to them. So these are some like typologies, some of the things we talk about in compliance a lot.
Okay. Thanks for breaking this down for our listeners. So very quickly, let's just talk about. I know one of the stuff that you should. So basically, when you see things that are unusual, uh, that prompts you to do further investigations to ascertain if this is actually suspicious stuff. So just walk us through some of these red flags you see, how you identify them, and how you report them onwards.
Okay. So first things first, when we say something is a red flags are basically identifiers, they are indicators, they are not conclusions. Just because something is a red flag does not mean it's a conclusion.
Oh, David, I think we've lost you.
A red flag is just basically like an indicator. That means it is something that looks like we are not yet sure. Do you get? So that's the first thing I want to clarify. So when we talk about red flags, we're talking about things that maybe will make you think of, is this normal? Is something that is just different, something that is suspicious. Like that's the word, suspicious. We're not saying it's a crime, we're not saying it's just suspicious. So in looking out for red flags, we look at things like, does this transaction match what we know about the customer? So imagine somebody tells you, I'm a shoemaker, I own one very small shop in Yaba, small shop, shoemaker. Then you have that account. Before you know, you start seeing dollars flying inside that account, $50,000. That does not align with what he has said he does. Or somebody says, I'm a student, money I get from my parents, and the money is basically my parents. Let's say my parents are lecturers, I'm a student, money I get is from my parents' allowance. Then you start seeing 50 million coming in, or 10 million coming in every day. Those are not aligning with what you know about the customer. Or another example could be a customer who, let's say, owns a business. On an average, he's getting, let's say, on an average every month, he gets like a total of 500K, total of 1 million. All of a sudden, customers start receiving 10 million, 20 million. It's not aligning with what the customer says they do. Those are kind of behavioral or indicators that are red flags that show you that something may be wrong here. Your job is now to look at these red flags that you have identified and investigate them. Now, in compliance, we usually use transaction monitoring rules or fraud rules. These rules are set up to identify red flags. Now, like we said, red flag doesn't mean it's a crime. It just means it's something you need to look closer on. Now, you could have the automated ones and you also have your manual ones. So you could say, let's set a rule that if somebody does a transaction that is greater than what he has done within the last 6 months, flag it. Let us look at it and find out why. We could set a rule saying, oh, some people want to, like we talked about how people will break money down small, 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 small. So you could say, okay, if the transaction limit or the reporting threshold is 10K and somebody is doing 9,900, flag it, that kind of thing. And see, we're not saying it's wrong, we just want to understand what it is about. And other things that could be red flags are things like when you ask the person some information, the person is being very reluctant to provide information. That could also be a red flag. Or rapid movement of funds. All those kind of things can be red flags that you need to investigate. And when you notice a red flag, the idea is you look at it, you investigate it. Sometimes you can discount it and say, oh, this is okay. Let's say somebody who is supposed to be a salary earner who earns 200K every month, has been earning 200K regularly. One day you see 10 into his account and you're like, what is going on? And you engage with the customer. He tells you, oh, one of my uncles had, or my father had a house and my father just passed away. So we, the children, sold the house, came together and sold the house, and this is my share. and it can provide you the documentations to show all these things. That is not suspicious. He has been able to justify it. So you can say, okay, this is okay, no problem. But there's some situation maybe the person doesn't have an explanation or he is reluctant to provide an explanation. Those could be indicators of something that you need to investigate further. So once you get a red flag, you investigate the alert, investigate the red flag, see what is going on. Investigation could involve asking questions, but in asking questions, you always have to be very careful because there are rules against what we call tipping off. That is telling the customer we are investigating you. So you have to be careful in doing that. So you could ask some questions. You could do other investigations. You could do some online checks. Okay, this person says he's a doctor. How much does the doctor averagely earn? You look at things like that. Oh, this person says he works for this company or he is part of this company. What is the salary of this company? Oh, is this company actually existing? Are they registered? Those kind of things. You do some online checks. Then you can also investigate the movement of the funds. Where is the money coming from? Where is the money going to? Those kind of things will give you an idea. Sometimes you realize some people are moving money up and down. Like someone sent to this one, someone sent back like that, and they're using it to basically try to wash the money. So you don't even know where the money is coming from or not. Those kind of things could be a red flag. So you do your investigation, you find out where the money is coming from, where the money is going to, and at the end of the day, you can now make a conclusion. And you don't just say, okay, this is not suspicious, close it and go away. You must always document what you say or what you have discovered. Like my friend used to say in accounting and everything, you trust but verify. So you have to leave a record. So that if you leave the organization tomorrow, you can't, and somebody is looking at it later, they have a justification of why was this done. You may not always be there to explain your work. So there must be documentation that can explain your work. So whether you say it's suspicious, whether you say it's not suspicious, document it. And that will be basically it. So those are, and then if it's suspicious, you can decide, okay, based on your company, you can decide how you proceed. After you do an investigation, you can say, okay, we'll freeze the funds, or we'll go and report a suspicious transaction to our regulators. So in Nigeria, you report to the NFIU. In the UK, you report to the NCA. In Canada, you report to FinTrack, all those kind of things. You will not have to just go ahead and report it through their different formats. So you just need to know what is your process in the particular organization you work for, and then you go ahead and follow that process. Sometimes you need to get approval from management, like from the CCO or the MLRO, depending on where you're working, to say, okay, I want to file an STRO or the head of financial crime. How do I go about it and everything? Yeah, so that's just basically it.
Okay. Okay, David. Okay, so
Yeah.
also very quickly, as you mentioned the reporting, so maybe just walk us through what STRU is, what SCRU is as well. Then also you can also talk about the NFI guideline, the 2024 one, and how that has shaped the work you do so far. This what's in the last, let's say, 1 year plus now. So you just
Okay.
just share more light on that.
So STR stands for Suspicious Transaction Report. SAR sorry, stands for Suspicious Activity Report. Now, the idea of it is if you notice a transaction that is suspicious, maybe you have not been able to answer some of all the questions you need, you feel this could be an indicator of fraud, money laundering, terrorism financing, any of these things, you are required to report it to the regulators. And in Nigeria, our major regulator for that is the NFIU. So you are supposed to report it on the GoML platform of the NFIU. So basically, in writing your suspicious transaction, you have to be able to talk about details of this transaction, like who is the person, the customer's name, the customer's account, the channel he's using. This transaction, did it occur in branch? If it's in branch, which branch did it occur? Did it occur through ATM, through transfer? How did this transaction occur? What is the amount involved? Who is the sender? Who is the receiver of the amount? Those kind of things. You get all these details. Then you also have to discuss sorry. Sorry about that. You also have to discuss things like why is this particular thing suspicious? Because you say, oh, it's a suspicious transaction. You have to be able to explain why it's suspicious, give the reasons for your suspicion. So you give a summary of details of the transaction and everything that is going on, and then you talk about why it is suspicious. Those are some of the things you have to do with a suspicious transaction report. Now, like I said, filing to the NFIU. Last year, the NFIU, last year, 2024, yeah, they released some guidelines on suspicious transaction reporting. Basically, they're trying to make it that the idea of us reporting suspicious transactions, idea of financial institutions reporting suspicious transactions is for the NFI to gather this data and use it. It's not just to report and say we have reported. They're supposed to use it to investigate. So they get data from GT Bank, get data from Access Bank, get the data from Gray, like financial institution, get the data from AfriChange. All these financial institutions, they get their data. They're able to have a holistic view of, okay, who are those people doing something? GT Bank reported this customer, Access Bank reported this customer. We can see it here. We can investigate. We can know what is going on. And we can use it to make data. We can use it to lead our investigation to go and capture those who are actually criminals. We can also use it to trace illegal funds from different financial institutions and where it's going to. We can also use it to publish reports on different things that are going on in different institutions. All these things are what the NFI is supposed to be using the data for. But it was realized that a lot of times people just feel basic STRs without providing so much information. So they basically went on to give like guidelines on how you should file your STRs to ensure that it is clear, it is concise, it contains all the information necessary. You must give your reason for suspicion. You must be able to explain why you feel it's a suspicious transaction, what actually happened in this. That's the idea of it. So it's like prioritizing basically clearer narratives, prioritizing quality over quantity. Because previously, I think also maybe that was 2023, they were talking about how the number of days you should file your STRs. I think before it was 7 days before they now 24 hours. So you're like, there's a lot of pressure on financial institutions to file the STRs quickly. But this point and I come back to say, okay, yes, so we need you to file STRs quickly, but we still want you to file quality STRs, not just file nonsense and say, I filed. So it's not just filing, you have to file good reports. That is the idea of it.
Okay, yeah, this is some great insight. So, also, the last year for when it comes to authorized push payments, another circular was released on that as well. So, if you can just tell us how this has shaped you as a financial crime expert, how you do your job over at your place of work. What has evolved since the release of that?
Okay, so first of all, what was released was an exposure draft. The idea of an exposure draft is to say that, okay, this is what the government is thinking or the regulators are thinking. It's not as if it's a law yet, but this is the direction we are going. We are inviting the public to make comments. We are inviting everybody to see what is going on, see what we are thinking, so that those who are affected will talk about it and decide. So based on that, they cannot draft the policy, draft the regulation, the circular, the everything to understand it. Now, the idea of this APP fraud thing. Now, question is, what is APP fraud? The idea of it is that, like in Nigeria, we have a lot of Instagram sellers who are selling goods for you. They say, come and buy my goods. And then you say you must pay before delivery. You now finish
I
paying.
think
Hello? Hello?
yeah, David,
Can
go
you hear me?
ahead. Yeah, I think
Okay.
we lost you for a bit. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was saying the idea of APP fraud is like, I want to give an example of it. Um,
Okay,
APP
sure, go
fraud means
ahead.
authorized push payments. The idea of it is like, we have a lot of Instagram sellers in Nigeria. This one is selling wigs, this one is selling clothes. And a lot of them tell you must pay before delivery. Your payment validates your order. So you now see this thing on Instagram, one very fine bag you want to buy for your wife or your girlfriend. You now send them, you tell you, okay, this is how much. The bag is 20K, the bag is 50K. You now send the 50K to the seller. You now say, okay, when will the delivery come? You tell you the delivery will come tomorrow. You say, okay, no problem. Tomorrow reaches, you don't hear anything from the Instagram seller. You now can meet, now what is going on? They now block you. That is fraud. But before, so a lot of financial institutions will tell you that it was you that sent the money to the person. It's nothing we can do. You're the one that
Yeah,
send
go
the
and
money.
carry your course.
Exactly, carry across. So the idea of this is they are shifting responsibility not from fully on the individual to financial institutions so that we can all bear the burdens to say that, okay, before any transaction, we just allow any transaction to go through our system. We have to be sure that it's actually a real transaction. And we have to be sure that it's not fraud. So because I even wrote something about this. One of the recently on LinkedIn, one of the biggest scams in the world and has been existing since, in fact, from the Bible, you see examples of this, is this human issue, social engineering. Jacob deceived his father and pretended to be Esau to collect blessings. And that is fraud, literally.
Yeah, it
Samson
was a
and
bad
Delilah.
guy.
Yeah, Samson and Delilah. Delilah did romance scam on Samson to get his, and they cut his hair. All those. So human element is something that a lot of times the financial institution just says it's not us, it's the person. But now financial institutions have to start telling their customers to be careful. They have to start putting things in place because the idea of this regulation is that if the fraud occurs, the financial institution is to refund the person's money. So they have like some rules. The financial institution must reimburse the victim within 48 hours. So if you report the issue occurs, and you report it within 24 hours, financial institution is supposed to refund that money to you so that the person cannot just carry your money and walk away. You have that protection as a customer. So as financial institutions, we have to start putting things in place so that in case there is fraud and somebody is coming to report it, we have measures to know is the money still in our system? Has the money gone? Where did the money go to? So we can also involve the other financial institution. Also, we have to also put things that it will be quick so that, because like I said, we have 48 hours to do this. So it's not something that you can say, I'm investigating for like next 3 months. You're investigating, and people will be shouting, my money, my money, my money. We now have 48 hours. So we have to put things as financial instruments in place so that we can basically refund this money to the customer as quickly as possible. And one thing about this thing, it mirrors a little bit of the UK regulation. The UK had a regulation on EPP fraud recently also, and it seems like this one mirrors it, which is kind of the same thing. It's just that their time periods are slightly different, and UK has a limit on their own. So yeah, it's just a very similar something about it. So the idea is that if fraud occurs, financial institutions have to refund the money if the customer reports within the time, unless the customer was grossly negligent. That means it was obvious to the blind that this is fraud and the customer still tried to send the money. Those are the cases that are not. But if customer is deceived, the financial institution has to reverse the money to the customer within 48 hours. And one other thing I would say about this, it now means that financial institutions have to be careful who they allow as their customers. Because imagine you allow a fraudster to be your customer. He now collects money from 20 people. You will now be reversing all the money. Collect all the money he has, run away with the money. You will not start reversing. It's your bottom line that will feel it. So financial institutions, you have to put more things in place to identify fraudsters, more things in place to identify transactions that are fraudulent. So yeah, that's just it.
So, David, time flies when you're having great conversations. That's exactly what is happening here right now. We see we have a couple of things to cover. So, uh, very quickly, so I know the institution where you work, you guys do cross-border transactions even. Yeah. So, how do you guys keep track of all the regulations across these multiple jurisdictions? You as a financial crime specialist, how do you keep track of everything I explained now that FinCEN have done one update? Maybe there's a state regulator in the US that have also done another update, and you guys operate down there. So how do you guys? I know your regulatory compliance space will be really crazy over there. So how do you guys keep track of everything, just ensuring that you are still functioning within the law across these
The truth is,
jurisdictions?
it's a lot, but the truth is that you just have to read. You just have to be on top of it. You just have to be aware. Like, because but that space is such a unique space because it deals with different countries and introduces risks that are so different than you imagine. You are dealing with FATF. You have to align with FATF standards. You have to align with this country's standards. You have to align with this other country's standards. GDPR. If you are operating in the EU, you have to align with their own standards. So many little things are going all over. So you also have to do that. You have to be like the most conservative law is one that you even follow to the latest because each law is sometimes different. You just have to be sure that your system adequately covers for all the places you operate in. You just have to be aware of recent changes. So horizon scanning is a must. You can't just say, I will just sit down and whatever happens, I'll hear about it later. You have to be on top of it because before you know, a regulator will wake up tomorrow and tell you, we have done this thing, we have changed this thing, and you have to update your system to reflect this change. Like UK recently cancelled one of their lists and basically consolidated their list into the UK sanctions list. Very important. If you don't know, you will still be trying to use the old ones to do your sanction screening, and you may be out of place. You have the MiCA, which is basically came into place in the EU. That is like their crypto regulation for 2026. If you are not careful, you may not even know what is going on there. And so you just have to basically keep yourself abreast. You have to align with all. I think you need to make your company instead of a local company, make your company an international company which aligns with the global standard. So you look for the highest global standard and you implement it because that will save you stress from doing that. So you just do the best you can. And like so, FATF regulations govern most compliance rules and regulations in different countries. So you have to be aligned with that. You have to be aligned with all the sanctions lists and ensure that you are updating them regularly. So even if you use vendors, one thing I've realized, if you use vendors like for your sanction screening or for your PEP screening, you have to regularly be testing your vendors lists, testing their controls because you will think that today they are up to date. Something will change. You will not know. You will not be relying on your vendor. But the truth is, when an audit happens or something happens, they won't blame your vendor. It's you, that the financial institution, that they will blame. And in the financial institution, it's you, the compliance officer, they will blame. They will not say, yes, the regulators may hold CEO and everything. But as the compliance officer, they will say, where were you as a compliance officer? Where were you as a compliance officer? And you know the funny thing about the fintech space, and basically the fintech space, apart from just the cross-border, the fintech space moves very rapidly. New innovation, new innovation. They want to introduce a new product, they want to introduce a new this, new that, new this. Customers are doing this now. We need to meet customers' needs. In doing all that, as a compliance person, you have to also ensure that you are working within the bounds of your license, you are working within the bounds of regulations. Not that you introduce a new product that is not in line with regulation. And then after introducing the new product, after a while, you will now have to come back and say, sorry, you have to reverse this new product. You get that kind of thing. Your customers will be angry. After telling the customers, you can do this now, you can do that now. You have to come and say, sorry, we can't do it. So you have to also be abreast to be ahead of even your product team that is coming with new ideas. You have to be ahead of them to say, okay, this is a new idea you have. Is it in line with regulations? If we do it like this, can we breach any regulation, or can we do it this way that will be better for us to meet our customers' needs while still being in line with regulation? Because compliance is supposed to be an enabler. A lot of people see compliance as police. I'll say, stop, don't move, stop. Yes, you're supposed to tell the company not to go to things that are going to put people in trouble. But in doing that, you're supposed to also look at the regulation and see, as an organization, this is what we can do. Not just this is what we cannot do. Also tell them this is what we can do. These are the advantages we have in this field. All these kind of things. And like I said, studying, keeping abreast of information is so essential because if you're not abreast of all this information, you'll be left behind.
Okay, so just a quick question too. In fact, so from when you were speaking, I noticed. So it means your organization, you guys have in-house solution for sanction screening. Because when you
Yeah,
were speaking about making use of, you guys have an in-house solution for that.
yeah.
Okay, so if you can also, I know you mentioned the consolidation of OFSI down to the UKSL. So subsetting the OFSI for the UKSL. So if you can just uh, throw more light on that, so our viewers will get to understand what is playing out within the UK compliance space.
Okay. So UK before had the UK sanctions list, that is UKSL, and then they also had the Office of Financial Sanctions Implementations, which also had a list they published. So each of them were maintaining their different lists. And yes, some names are on both lists, some names are on one list. But the UK recently said, okay, instead of causing you to be looking at here, looking at here, looking at here, looking at here, how about we consolidate everything into the UK? We have the UK sanctions list, and that will be our general list now. instead of just having it here. And so that's what basically the UK is working on, and that's what they have implemented now. They now have this UK sanctions list as our general sanctions list. So, as a financial institution, what does this mean for you? Number one, you have to review your processes, how you are sanction screening, how you are PEP screening, all those kind of things. And you look at which sanctions list have you been using. You have to ensure that now you are focused on the UK sanctions list. Number two, in your policies that you talked about, how you're doing your sanctions screening and your onboarding and all those things, you have to include the UK sanctions list if it was not there before as your main list if you're working in the UK. So those are some of the processes you have to put in place. You have to also test that your system is actually adequately checking the UK sanctions list. So when I say test the system, go on the UK sanctions list, pick out like 5, 6 names, run them on your own system, see if it flags these names. Those are things you need to do, and do this at regular intervals to see if your system is just telling you everything is okay, everything is okay. Meanwhile, you have like 20 sanctioned people in your book, because sometimes it happens. Sometimes they won't. Some systems don't pick out the most recent names, maybe because some have not been updated. Some systems will only pick out maybe your list, what it has from 2024 is where it stopped. So you don't have the most recent ones, or 2025 is where it stopped. You don't have the most recent ones. These are things you have to do at regular intervals, especially at this change. Test your system to ensure that it's working effectively.
Okay, okay. So before we close, so we'll just do two things quickly. The first would be just for confirmation. I don't know if you have read these CBN Fintech reports, and if you have anything or two, one or two things to say about the reports, then for you to also maybe share a couple of nuggets, or like will I say nuggets, or for those that want to come into the compliance space, maybe a thing or two from your own experiences that you think they would need uh, to
Okay.
succeed within the compliance space, even globally. Uh, yeah. So just those two things, then we'll sign
Okay.
out.
On the CBN fintech report, first of all, it's glad to see that CBN is doing a fintech report. It shows that they have realized how much growth is happening in the fintech industry. It shows that they are realizing the importance, the everything about the fintech industry. Before, fintech was just seen as very small children playing in one corner. Now they're realizing the growth in the industry. They are realizing the need for regulation in the industry. They're realizing how much moves in that industry, and so it's a very encouraging something if you are saying. So what I'll just say is it shows that there's a lot of innovation. We have so many different types of fintech. Nigeria is one of the hotbed for fintech. In fact, it's like Silicon Valley in Africa, Nigeria, because we have so much knowledge, so much things being developed here in the fintech industry. But as the fintech industry evolves, so much regulations evolve. I feel like regulations are playing catch up to the industry. Regulations are playing catch up to what is going on in the industry. So the regulators need to be able to put on their thinking caps, come up with regulations, and they seem to be doing that now. We talked about the APP fraud exposure draft. I earlier mentioned the digital licensing they are working, digital asset licensing they are working, and the um, accelerator program they are working on. Start showing at least they are now trying to put a leg into these things, and then they need to maybe like harmonize it well, such that we don't have different regulators. Like one is saying this one is saying the other one is saying the other one. Like they'll have a harmonized list of rules for fintech institutions. They'll have their regulator, maybe a branch in the CBN, which will give more advice on fintech, those kind of things. Because compliance is not supposed to be a blocker, it's supposed to basically be an enabler of these things. And we need these regulations, because if you don't know, if you just say everything should not be regulated, you will not even know what is right, what is wrong. It should just be everybody is doing their own. It's until regulator will not come. Maybe one big thing will not happen. Like we saw what is the name of that company that they said that they were doing like Bitcoin trading for people. I forgot it, and then they disappeared everybody's money one time like that. That they were doing Bitcoin trading for people. But like little things, we have so much fraud that occurs in the industry, and sometimes these things occur because there is no regulation. These things occur because the regulators are not they are not basically Like, hey, yeah, CBEX is what I was thinking about. I don't know if you remember the story of CBEX.
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
They just
okay.
got everybody to bring their money in. Everybody brought money, brought money, brought money. One day they took off. They said you were trading. This kind of things. Like if you do research into them, you realize that those companies were not really registered. What they were passing off as registration was not what they was actually true. Regulators did not speak about it until after people have lost money. So if these regulations can come ahead of these things, it will be better. That is just what I'm trying to point out. Then, what advice or what will I say to people who are trying to come up in the industry? First of all, gain knowledge, understand the industry. Like we are talking about, the fintech industry is fastly developing. You also have to develop very fast. Earlier, I mentioned that I was thinking of doing something in crypto analysis. The reason why is I see that a lot of movement in that digital space. So if you're going to be a compliance person, get ahead of the curve. Go and start learning. It's not when it has developed fully, you now start learning it. Go ahead of the curve, learn more. You can also see things like stay curious. That's what I just want. Like learning doesn't stop, so you have to keep learning, keep trying, keep understanding. Learn how to do research. That's something I am trying to work on. So I can learn to basically do more research. Learn tech skills because sometimes having these skills is very useful. Learn how to use things like SQL to analyze data, especially if you want to do something investigation and financial crime analysis and all those kind of things, you may need to look at a lot of data and understand how to use it. Learn how to interpret data or even present data to people. Learn how to use things like Power BI. Learn how to use something as simple as PowerPoint. Know how to do your slides very well so you can present it. Know how to use AI too, because AI is developing very quickly, so that you can be able to make reports that actually stand out. So that you can be able to make things that actually stand out, so that you will not just stay in one corner while everybody is developing. Get active on LinkedIn. If you are looking for a job, don't just sit down in one corner and say, hey, job should come and find me. Create content in your LinkedIn. Have a profile that speaks out for you, that makes you stand out. Then learn how to use compliance tools, things like Comply Advantage, Persona, all those kind of tools. Learn how to use them so that you can be able to stand out and help you in your compliance journey. Just those are some of the things I would say. But the idea of it is just keep learning, keep working, study, do horizon scanning, learn the things that are going on. One thing I usually do is I subscribe to newsletters of all the regulators. I follow all the regulators on social media or all their social media. So if anyone posts anything, I will know.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah,
anyone sends something, I'll know. Then follow people who are industry leaders because those also people will also make like sometimes you see the regulation, you don't even know. It's very long, it's very technical. You're like, hey God, how will I read this whole thing? Sometimes by
yeah.
following
True,
industry
true.
leaders,
Yeah,
break
yeah.
it down for you. They'll break it down for you. And based on their breakdown, you can now read it with that knowledge in mind and it make it easier for you to understand. Don't just say they broke it down for
Get
me, I'll
more
not read it again.
insights.
You still have to read. So yeah, all these things are just things you can do to make this easier for yourself.
All right. Thanks, Elo. Thanks so much for coming to share these insights with us. Even um, I've learned quite a lot from the conversations we've had today. So thank you so much for coming in. To our viewers, we say thank you also for listening in. You can always subscribe to our channel so you get to see when next we're going live. Like our videos, you can share with your friends and get to build your knowledge around the defense lines we have. So thank you all once again. Thank you, David. Thank you. Do have a nice day all. See you next time.
Thank you very much. Have a lively day.
All right. Thanks. Bye.